Officer Marcus Rodriguez had promised to protect his wife Emma for the rest of their lives. But in their luxury, overwater villa in the Maldives, surrounded by crystal-clear waters and complete isolation, those same hands that had sworn to protect her would become the instruments of her death. If you're drawn to stories that expose the dark secrets behind picture-perfect marriages and how trust can become deadly, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what comes next. But let's go back to where it all began. Emma Chun was 27 when she married Marcus Rodriguez, a decorated NYPD officer with commendations for bravery and a reputation for unwavering integrity. Their wedding at Brooklyn Botanical Garden was modest but beautiful, attended by Marcus's police family and Emma's small circle of friends from her work as a graphic designer. They had met through a dating app, both looking for something real after years of disappointing relationships. Marcus was everything Emma thought she wanted. Stable, protective, devoted. He worked long shifts, but always made time for her, bringing home takeout from her favorite restaurants and planning weekend getaways to the Catskills. He told her constantly how lucky he was to have found her, how she made his dangerous job worthwhile, because he had someone beautiful waiting at home. But Emma had always felt like something was missing. Not from Marcus specifically, but from her life in general. She had grown up in a working-class family in Flushing, watching her parents struggle to make ends meet, sacrificing everything for their children's education. Emma had excelled in school, earned a scholarship to Parsons, and landed a decent job at a small design agency. But decent wasn't extraordinary. Comfortable wasn't exciting. She followed lifestyle influencers on Instagram, women who traveled to Monaco and Dubai, who wore designer clothes and dined at Michelin-starred restaurants. Emma would lie in bed scrolling through these curated lives while Marcus snored beside her after another exhausting shift, and she would wonder what it felt like to be them. To have money that opened every door. To have beauty that commanded attention. To have freedom from the ordinary. The change began when Emma's design agency landed a contract with a luxury hotel group based in Dubai. Her boss needed someone to travel to the UAE for client meetings, and Emma volunteered immediately. Marcus was hesitant about her traveling alone to the Middle East, but Emma insisted it was a career opportunity she couldn't pass up. Dubai was a revelation. The towering skyscrapers, the pristine beaches, the overwhelming wealth displayed so casually. Emma spent her evenings after client meetings exploring the city, dining at restaurants where a single meal cost more than her weekly grocery budget, wandering through malls where handbags had five-figure price tags. It was at a rooftop bar in the Burj Al Arab that she met Khalid al-Rashid. He was exactly the kind of man Emma had fantasized about. Wealthy beyond comprehension, heir to a real estate empire that owned properties across 3 continents. Educated at Cambridge, fluent in 5 languages, and possessed of the casual confidence that came from never having worried about money. Khalid approached Emma with a directness that would have seemed arrogant from anyone else. "You don't belong in the tourist section," he told her, gesturing to the crowded bar area. "You should be in the private lounge where people of quality gather." Emma should have been offended, but instead she felt seen. Khalid recognized something in her that Marcus never had. Not contentment with an ordinary life, but hunger for something more. Their first conversation lasted 4 hours. Khalid asked about her work, her dreams, her frustrations with the limitations of middle-class American life. He listened with genuine interest as Emma confessed ambitions she had never shared with Marcus. She wanted to travel extensively, to experience luxury without guilt, to be with someone who understood that wanting more didn't make you shallow. "You're wasted in New York," Khalid told her as the evening ended. "I mean that respectfully. Your intelligence, your beauty, your potential. You should be living a life that matches who you really are." Emma returned to New York 2 weeks later, but everything had changed. Marcus seemed smaller somehow, his stories about work less interesting, their apartment more cramped. She had tasted a different kind of life, and returning to her old one felt like suffocation. Khalid stayed in contact through encrypted messaging apps. He sent her photos of sunsets over the Persian Gulf, invitations to visit Dubai again, gentle suggestions that she deserved better than what she had. Emma told herself she was just maintaining a professional contact, a wealthy client who might lead to more design opportunities. But she was lying to herself. Marcus noticed a change in Emma. She had become distant, distracted. She spent hours on her phone, always angling the screen away from him. She started talking about wanting more from life, about feeling trapped by their financial limitations, about needing space to figure out what she really wanted. Marcus tried everything to reconnect with his wife. He planned surprise date nights, suggested couples therapy, worked extra overtime to save for a vacation he hoped would rekindle their romance. But Emma was already gone emotionally, living in a fantasy future where she wasn't married to a cop making $60,000 a year. The affair became physical on Emma's second trip to Dubai 3 months later. Khalid had invited her to consult on a hotel redesign project, all expenses paid. Marcus was suspicious, but Emma convinced him it was strictly professional, a chance to advance her career. That trip lasted 10 days, and Emma spent most of it in Khalid's penthouse apartment overlooking the marina. They traveled to Abu Dhabi in his private helicopter. They dined at restaurants where Emma didn't even look at prices. They made love in hotel suites that cost more per night than Emma's monthly rent in Brooklyn. Khalid made his intentions clear. Leave your husband. Come live with me in Dubai. I can give you everything you've ever wanted. A career designing for the wealthiest clients in the Middle East. Travel, security, respect. All you have to do is choose yourself instead of settling. Emma flew home knowing she would accept his offer. She just needed to find the right way to tell Marcus their marriage was over. She rehearsed different approaches, trying to find words that would minimize his pain while maximizing her freedom. But there were no good words for what she was about to do. Marcus had his own secrets. He had been tracking Emma's movements, monitoring her communications, documenting her affair with methodical police precision. He knew about Khalid. He knew about the penthouse. He knew about Emma's plans to leave him. And Marcus Rodriguez, decorated officer and devoted husband, had decided that if Emma was going to betray their vows, she would pay a price far higher than divorce. Emma had chosen her freedom. Marcus had chosen revenge. 2 months after her second Dubai trip, Emma boarded a one-way flight back to the City of Gold. She told Marcus she needed time to think, that the distance would help her find clarity. But she wasn't looking for clarity. She was chasing everything she thought life had denied her. Khalid welcomed her like a queen. His world was surreal. Chauffeured cars, marble villas, a staff that obeyed without question. At first, it was intoxicating. Every morning she woke to oceanside sunrises, designer gifts, and whispered promises about starting her own design studio. For the first time in her life, Emma felt untouchable. But paradise began to feel like a cage. Khalid's charm came with conditions. Who she could see, what she could post, how she dressed. He hated her late-night calls with friends back home. He monitored her social media, insisting privacy is safety. When Emma tried to argue, he reminded her that Dubai wasn't New York, and that his influence reached everywhere. Meanwhile, Marcus's calm exterior was cracking. He had requested a month's leave from the NYPD, officially for personal recovery. Unofficially, he was making plans. The betrayal had shattered him. But what consumed him wasn't grief, it was obsession. He tracked Emma's every move through leaked metadata from her phone and a private investigator hired overseas. He knew when she moved into Khalid's villa. He knew what brand of necklace Khalid gave her on her birthday. And most importantly, he knew she'd be returning to New York for a short trip to finalize business contracts. Marcus didn't see that as business. It was an opportunity. Emma arrived back in New York on October 20th. She checked into an upscale hotel near Central Park and texted Marcus out of courtesy. "I'm home a few days. Let's stay civil. Please don't contact me." That night, he parked across the street from her hotel, watching her silhouette through the window as she unpacked. 3 nights later, Emma disappeared. Hotel cameras showed her leaving just after 10 p.m., wearing a beige coat and carrying her purse. She told the front desk she was meeting an old friend for dinner. She never returned. When morning came, her phone went dark. Her passport was still in the hotel safe. Her credit cards stopped registering any activity. 48 hours later, A jogger by the Hudson River saw something pale flicker among the reeds. Police divers recovered what remained. Emma's upper body wrapped in a designer scarf soaked through with salt water and blood. DNA confirmed the impossible. Her lower half was missing, and authorities could only speculate whether the murderer intended to disguise the crime or send a message. Marcus Rodriguez was the first suspect. His record was spotless, but his digital trail wasn't. Investigators found deleted ride-hailing logs, erased surveillance footage from precinct servers, and a storage unit rented under a fake name. Inside, a carpet identical to the one in Emma's New York apartment, and a passport photo of Khalid al-Rashid pinned above the workbench. By then, Marcus had already crossed the Atlantic. He arrived in Dubai 2 days before the body was found. According to customs records, he entered on a police liaison visa, authorized for intelligence exchange. Khalid never saw him coming. When Marcus landed in Dubai, vengeance was the only thing that kept him breathing. He'd studied every move, every contact, every place Emma had been seen with Khalid. To the world, it looked like a grieving husband unable to accept his wife's betrayal. But Marcus wasn't grieving anymore. He was hunting. Using contact from his NYPD career, Marcus connected with a retired American security contractor working in Dubai's underbelly. With a handful of untraceable cash, Marcus got what he needed: addresses, schedules, even video footage. Khalid's life was mapped down to the minute. His favorite restaurants, his gym, his path from the villa to the private marina every morning. All of it fed into Marcus's growing obsession with justice through pain. Meanwhile, back in New York, the police pieced together fragments of Emma's final hours. Forensic teams found traces of adhesive and latex fibers around the river site, evidence suggesting she'd been restrained before death. Surveillance from a toll booth showed a vehicle resembling Marcus's car crossing the George Washington Bridge hours before Emma vanished. But by the time authorities issued a warrant, he was already gone. In Dubai, Marcus began appearing in shadows of Khalid's world. The doorman at the Fairmont swore he'd seen a foreign man watching the Sheikh's car from across the boulevard. Security at the marina noticed someone leaving small GPS trackers on vehicles belonging to Khalid's staff. Each sighting was fleeting, but consistent. The same man with tired eyes and quiet fury. Khalid ignored the warnings. To him, Marcus was an embarrassment, a broken American husband clinging to a lost woman. He underestimated how far that broken man would go. Late one evening, Khalid hosted a private event on his yacht, a celebration for investors. Emma's name came up briefly, whispered among guests who knew more than they admitted. A Western woman gone missing. One joked, "Bad luck follows drama." Khalid smiled faintly, but his eyes betrayed discomfort. He'd last spoken to Emma 3 days before she disappeared. She had called him in tears, accusing him of manipulation, of controlling her life. The next morning, she was gone. At 2:17 a.m., the yacht left the marina with 5 people aboard. By 4 a.m., radar logs showed it drifting oddly near the restricted breakwater. When port police arrived around sunrise, they found only Khalid, slumped over the deck table, barely conscious. The others were missing. Khalid was alive, but just barely. His security officer and 2 guests were never found. The yacht's surveillance system had been destroyed, and traces of salt water mixed with cleaning agents suggested an attempt to wash evidence. Under questioning, Khalid spoke little, but investigators noted his trembling hands and the deep scratches down his neck. He whispered one phrase repeatedly. He was already on board. The phrase haunted Dubai authorities for weeks. Was Marcus Rodriguez truly behind the attack, or was it a ghost story to distract from something darker? Interpol issued a notice for Marcus's arrest, but he had vanished again, leaving behind conflicting sightings across 3 countries. Back in New York, a letter arrived at the precinct addressed simply to Internal Affairs. Inside were 2 items: Emma's wedding ring and a note written in Marcus's careful handwriting. Justice was never blind. It just needed to see the truth through blood. Below the signature was a date, October 23rd, 2023, the same morning Emma's body had surfaced. Detectives realized then that Marcus had planned everything from the beginning. But whether he was still alive or just another ghost of his own creation, no one could say for sure. Khalid's hospitalization triggered diplomatic chaos. An American tourist missing, a dead or vanished husband on the run, and a wealthy Emirati heir found near death on his yacht. Every headline in both countries screamed scandal. Interpol agents traced a single fingerprint from the yacht's stern rail. It matched Marcus Rodriguez, but there was no trace of him leaving Dubai legally. His name wasn't on any flight manifest, no record of border crossings or hotel stays. It was as if he had evaporated into the desert air. 3 weeks later, a fisherman sailing out of Fujairah found a shipping crate washed up along the coast. Inside were bloodied ropes, a woman's gold anklet, and what investigators described as extensive DNA belonging to both Emma Chun and Marcus Rodriguez. Forensics connected the anklet directly to Emma. It was a gift Khalid had given her 2 months before her death. The discovery reignited theories that Marcus had traveled to Dubai not only for revenge, but perhaps to stage a grotesque exchange, retribution paid in kind. As the investigation deepened, Khalid's public image collapsed. Screenshots from Emma's private messages leaked online, revealing months of emotional manipulation and surveillance. In one message, she wrote, "You say I'm free, but you track everything I do. You're worse than the man I left." It painted a picture of control disguised as luxury, of a woman who had escaped one cage only to walk willingly into another. Dubai authorities quietly closed the case, citing insufficient evidence to pursue further action against international parties. But U.S. investigators weren't done. A year later, they reopened the New York side under the name Operation Mirage. The theory was simple but stunning. Marcus had orchestrated both Emma's murder and Khalid's presumed near drowning to create a cycle of poetic justice, each piece mirrored by the other. Emma's remains told the story no one had wanted to say aloud. The precision of the cuts suggested someone with forensic training or law enforcement knowledge. Marcus's background fit perfectly. The forensic marker used to wrap her body, a chemical-resistant industrial film, was traced to NYPD evidence packaging stock. Yet no body, no witness, and no transaction ever confirmed Marcus's survival. Instead, 9 months after the yacht incident, a security camera in Istanbul captured a man limping into a small dockside mosque just before dawn. He wore a cap low over his face, but investigators froze the footage and enhanced it. The scar on his left temple, the same one Marcus had received years earlier in a car crash. Then, 2 weeks after that footage surfaced, Khalid al-Rashid was found dead in his penthouse. Officially ruled a heart attack. Unofficially, there were signs of suffocation. The only evidence left behind was a folded photograph on his bedside table. Emma, smiling in front of the Burj Khalifa. Across it, someone had scrawled a line in black ink. "She died chasing dreams. You died giving them." The photo was signed, Amar. To this day, the FBI lists Marcus Rodriguez as whereabouts unknown. Some believe he drowned after fleeing Dubai. Others whisper that he still moves through the world's forgotten ports under false names, hunting men who destroy women. But one fact endures. Every year on October 23rd, fresh flowers appear on the Hudson River pier where Emma's body was found. No card, no signature, only silence. The kind that makes you wonder if justice ever truly ends, or just learns how to hide. 6 months after Khalid's mysterious death, the world moved on. The headlines faded. The investigation stalled. And the story of Emma Chun and Marcus Rodriguez slipped quietly into the archives of unsolved tragedies. But in law enforcement circles, whispers remained. A rumor passed between detectives and intelligence analysts. Marcus had resurfaced in Morocco, working under an alias as maritime security personnel on private vessels. The story was never confirmed, but among those who had studied the case, it felt disturbingly plausible. Detective Laura Green was one of the few who couldn't let it go. She had inherited the Rodriguez case in New York after the International Task Force disbanded. Her instincts told her everything about it was wrong. The meticulous planning, the dual murders, the poetic symmetry. This wasn't random violence. It was staged justice, delivered by someone who understood both hearts and procedures. One night, while reviewing the case files yet again, she noticed something she had seen dozens of times but never thought much about: a postal mark on the envelope that had contained Emma's wedding ring. The code wasn't from New York at all. It originated from Tangier, Morocco. Green submitted a quiet request to Interpol, marked non-urgent. 2 weeks later, a classified report arrived at her inbox. A male employee matching Marcus's age and build had been hospitalized in Tangier following an explosion on a small cargo ship. He had registered under the name Martin Reyes, Omar. The man had vanished before investigators arrived. The hospital bed sheets still smelled faintly of salt water and antiseptic. In the drawer by his bedside was a single item: a photo of the Hudson River at sunrise. No further trace was ever found. The official record reads, Marcus Rodriguez, presumed deceased, case unresolved. But for those who knew his story, for those who saw how love had turned to devotion, devotion to betrayal, and betrayal to vengeance, the ending offered no peace. Because sometimes justice doesn't die. It drifts. And somewhere out there, in a quiet coastal town far from New York and Dubai, a man with a familiar scar still wakes before dawn, stands by the water, and whispers a single name to the wind before disappearing into the fog. Emma.